WOVU LP, Cleveland.
This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. In-depth conversations with people who are making a difference in the lives of others here and around the world. Culture is at the heart of who you are. Know your culture, find yourself on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Grand Rising, this is Vince Robinson. Before we start the show, I just wanted to invite you to join me and recording artist Donnie Lene at Lunchtime Art for a musical duet on Friday, September 24th at 7 p.m. We'll do a listening party for her new EP and feature Brightbox CLE. For details, visit the Lunchtime Art's Facebook page. You can also find me on Facebook with podcasts of Open Door available on my YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe for notifications on this and future shows. Open Door starts right now. Hello and welcome to Open Door. I'm Vince Robinson, and my guest this morning is artist and educator Mary Kay Thomas. She has such a distinguished name, and she has a distinguished background as well. She was telling me her life story in our pre-interview, and I just found it so utterly fascinating that I decided that I needed to have this conversation with her today. So without any further ado, we'll get to it. Mary Kay Thomas, artist and educator. I would have to imagine that you've probably been both at the same time for the entire journey, but I could be wrong. But let's start from the beginning. You are a Cleveland product?
Yes, born and bred.
Born and bred.
Yes, and raised on the south side of town primarily. But my education in East Cleveland, where I presently reside.
Okay. So I want to get to the good stuff because you have overcome one of the most difficult things to ever come back from. And now it's manifesting in a life as an artist in which you're touching the community in so many different ways. Tell us where you have come from.
Well, I survived a massive stroke and a ruptured brain aneurysm. That was very life-changing. I had owned my own business for 15 years and had been on the road, a courier. 7 states I built that business up to. And the stroke and the brain aneurysm took me off the road. I could no longer drive. When I did wake up, 3 weeks later, I had no memory of the last month. But I was glad to be alive. I came home on Good Friday. And to be home with my children for Easter. And I began my journey then, my journey of healing and allowing art to be a catalyst, because that was the only thing that came back, was my natural ability to do art. I found out that I was unable to read and comprehend the written language, and my faith, something that had been with me since I was a little girl. I could still tell you about the word, but I could no longer read the Bible. I used those two things together, and God took me on this most incredible journey as he told me, go back to school. And I was like, oh no, I'm in the book for Dick and Jane. Please. Well, if we're going to do this, we might as well do it right. And I'm too old to get anything but an A, and we need to be on the dean's list.
So you ended up on the dean's list?
Yes, many times, more than once. And I did a 4.0 on that journey. And also graduated summa cum laude from Ursuline. So I have 2 degrees. My focus was the therapeutic use of art, creative art therapy, and then also studio art. So I combined the 2, and of course, my ministry, the 3.
So this is something that evolved after you went through this experience, but prior to that, you had been educated as well.
Yeah, I went to Bowling Green for a short time, and that journey was cut short due to the death of my mother. I lost her when I was really young, and I was studying at that time because I was unaware of Ursuline even being here. And that I knew I was an art therapist even as a small child. So what I pursued in school was social work and art. I put the 2 together because I knew that that would give me the 2 tools that I needed to put those 2 things to work together in a partnership. I didn't find out about art therapy until after I had the stroke, 25 years later. So, but I've always known I was an art therapist from a small child, even though I didn't know the term.
Right. So you didn't really know at some point in life you were going to reconnect with the idea of doing that, and then you go through that extremely difficult physical challenge, and then it wakes up something in you, and you rededicate your life.
Yes, to the arts. And before I got my degrees, I got a job with the Board of Education. I went in on an entry level. I just said I needed to work. Instead of taking Social Security, I told them no. When I woke up, they wanted me to be on Social Security and say I was broken, and I refused. Mm-hmm. So I said, I need a job.
So you said no to Social Security?
Yeah, at 48, who takes, no. I said, no, I woke up, I'm breathing, I can move it, and no, I couldn't read, and I couldn't even drive. I wasn't even allowed to drive any longer because of the stroke I had. What do you call those? I was not allowed to drive any longer. Okay. That was part of my journey as well. It took me a couple years to heal enough for me to even get behind the wheel of a car. Mm-hmm. So my healing journey, 5 years in after I had the stroke, is when I began school. It took me 8 years straight through. But he took the test because I couldn't read. I couldn't read at a college level, and I surely couldn't do algebra. And you need those 2 things to get into college.
Mm-hmm. So, curious, what did you go to Bowling Green to study?
I studied art, photography, and social work. And I figured that those 3 would give me what I needed to create an art therapist. Even though I didn't know that term, I knew that's what I was, as somebody that takes art and uses it to heal the body. Mm-hmm. And I'm still doing that now.
Okay. I was going to say, so you kind of figured that out, and so you picked up on that mission. So where does it find you now?
I do a lot of community engagement. I've done that. I've taught art and culture with the Cleveland Heights, University Heights City Board of Education, and just recently a librarian from the Noble Road Library reached out to me to do creative art therapy with junior high and high school students, a couple of sessions for her in the coming school year. She's trying to create a new program and project, and she knows that I've done that before. I also wrote a proposal for a new medical entity here in town called Dedicated Seniors. I'm doing creative art therapy with their seniors at 3 of their places, their sites that they have, Collinwood, Maple, and West Park. And today I had an interview with Studio Institute, and they also would like for me to do something in the portion where you combine art and therapy, art education and therapeutic art together for an after-school high school program. Then in the spring, they want me to come in and do preschool as well in that same capacity. So, and then I do it all over. I'm currently on the board for Food Strong, a 501 entity here in town that teaches food and nutrition education. And I am their lead artist for their art projects and art education. The city of East Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. I was just listening to what you were sharing, and it seems as though you're dealing with folks at all levels. If you're dealing with children and you're dealing with seniors, you mentioned Dedicated Seniors
Yes.
program, and then you mentioned Studio Institute.
Yes.
So that's something that's geared more towards younger folks. So you have an ability to reach people on all levels.
Yes, I've worked with... I started out working for the Department of Early Childhood when I worked for the Cleveland Heights, University Heights City School District. And I did not really work in the classroom. I subbed sometimes. I would go in and sub for people. But I mainly did creative art programming and projects, cultural, as well as therapeutic impact. If a child was having a hard time with issues from home and sitting in class was too difficult for them for a few hours in the middle of the day, because I did before and after school, a lot of times I would spend my day in the building and still doing therapeutic art fun with students if they're sent out of the class. And then also I changed lunch by creating a program called Lunchtime Art. And every day I must have had, instead of kids running outside playing and kicking a ball, and they journaled. They drew pictures. I brought in some of my small art, and we talked about art and talked about what was happening in their lives, and I taught them about fleeting thoughts and just how to be more in tuned into what was going on inside of them and how to read that, their feelings, their emotions. And then I took that project and took it to the junior high school, where I thought it would be most needed, and it was. The head of the school district came and sat in with me on many occasions, and a lot of the things that I was doing for the district. So
They came in and they saw students engaged and
Yes.
behaving themselves and entranced with all this good stuff that was going on relative to arts and culture. You know, it's really a necessary medicine that we need to put in the schools, in every school, not just the School of the Performing Arts, but this is something that should be in every school. And we're going to talk a little bit more about education. And I also want to talk to you about perhaps some of the challenges that you face with dealing with students in this day and age. We're going to explore that just a little bit more when we come back.
Okay.
You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest is Mary Kay Thomas. She is an artist and educator, and she's doing big things in the Cleveland area, but especially in East Cleveland. We're going to talk about that as well when we come back. This is 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burton Bell Car community radio station. We'll be right back.
Hey listeners, here at WOVU 95.9 FM, we want to stay connected with you. So like our page on Facebook, which is WOVU 95.9 FM, or you can call our request line at 216-271-0959. Again, that is 216-271-0959. Also, don't forget to visit our website at WOVU.org. Keep it locked on WOVU 95.9 FM, a BBC community radio station.
We're back on Open Door with Vince Robinson and my guest, Mary Kay Thomas, artist and educator, and as I said, doing big things in East Cleveland and surrounding communities. Before we took the break, we were just talking about some of the classes that you facilitated and how administrators would come in and observe all the good things that were going on in those classrooms. I do know, after having been in some classrooms involving young folks, that sometimes it can be a challenge to manage that energy. How do you deal with the energy that students have, especially when they're not focused?
Well, you know what? Art is, it's that we're art, the basis of human society. We're not to be soldiers, and we're to be builders of things, artisans, all of us, in some form or fashion, even though you'll hear a lot of people say, I'm not an artist. That's only because they've never been given the opportunity to explore that portion of themselves. So when young people come into my space, I'm always jovial. You have to be open, you have to be flexible, and you also have to be in tune and listen, aware. If that particular child needs me more than this child, then you give them what they need. It's flat out. And even though I'm not presently in the classroom, I try to keep myself available to hearing what young people are saying. I might run into a stranger and be standing in the line next to them and their kids, and I'll just ask them the question, what do you think of the world today? How's things going in your world? Because I want to find out what they think, of what their perception of what we're doing and where we've led them. You want to keep your finger on the pulse of the children, because they are our future, and we can't guide them. We can't give them what we need if we're just talking to them and not listening and paying attention to what they have to say, because it's important. I don't think that we should be too old as leaders giving advice to our children, and I'm not talking about artisans. I said leaders. Key words there. Washington. Oh. Mm-hmm. Because they lose sight of what the future is. Their future is, very short. So, and they're planning someone else's life that has like 80 years. How is that fair? So we need to be more in tune to our young people and their voices, especially now. There was a time when 20 years ago, technology has stepped up the game. The children are as in tune with the world and what's going on as we are. The big stuff. They might not be able to see the small stuff because they're still children and they're still developing. But big stuff, they don't miss it. And believe me, they have their opinions.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, in that you have been an educator for a long time, probably a majority of your life, it might be fair to say.
Yes.
So you've been present in the classroom, and I'm just wondering if you have seen any changes in students over the years.
Well, you know what? No, their enthusiasm just to learn, just to gain knowledge. No, I've not. They want to. I'll put it like this. Who would have thought when I taught Indian studies and took that as after school, something to study for children of color, who would have thought they would have been interested? We've singled out 14 tribes, from Eskimos to Panama, to the Panama Indians. And from the East Coast to the West, we studied and focused on those 14 different tribes, all different types, nomadic, some lived in the mountains, like I said, Eskimos, to Panamanian and Molo art. We studied the different types of art, their cultures, their food, how some traveled, some didn't travel. We came up with a chant. We did medicine sticks, medicine bags, authentic. I had old leather coats and old leather skirts and pants. I brought that stuff in and we cut it up and we had a ball. A giant teepee for the entryway because we did a play, an after-school play for the parents to come in and a dinner. The kids came in chanting and it was magnificent. And then the oration, the ability to be able to speak in front of, hold your head up, project your voice without shouting, all of those things. The Greek gods. And then the year that we did the Greek gods, the kids were so excited. They came up to me after we had done the skits for the parents and everything. Can we do the Roman gods next?
I wonder what it would have been like if they said, or had said, can we do the African gods next?
But see, because, and we did the Lion King, we did many, we covered a whole lot of different cultures over the years. And to be able to come in and we focused on one culture a month, to be able to come in and say good morning in that dialect to everybody. So we opened those doors with my program.
So one morning it was Ohayo gozaimasu.
Yes.
And then another morning it could have been Memo Ache.
Yes, yes. So but we gave it a whole week for each one, a whole week of that, so that the parents could come in and say good morning in that same dialect when you drop your child off. That's you greeted, a greeting, to teach the importance that we're all important and to be acknowledged, even if you don't know their language, their spoken language, to be acknowledged just with a greeting such as so.
You know, something else about that, it occurred to me in the moment of you expressing it to me, was that it was art, but it was also culture. It was art, but it was also history. It was art, but it was also sociology. So all those things are connected. And as an instructor or as a teacher, you could bring all of those elements into the picture and be effective in education and not just teaching a class.
I enjoyed... People would clamor to have their kids in my after-school program at Garrity. Mrs. Thomas, are you going to make mass this year? My little Billy or my little Susie didn't get the chance to make a mass with you last year because I had mass throughout the building, and we did it was abstract masks. I could do a book right now of just photos of masks that the children created. When I started that project, I think I must have did masks every year for 10 years. Every year.
That is amazing. Yeah. I'm thinking like I'm sitting here next to somebody like Maya Angelou, who has done so much in her life that it's kind of difficult to go back and relive all those things because they were all meaningful and they all had an ability to affect people in so many different ways. When we had the conversation the other day, you were just talking about the fact that you encounter people who were itty-bitty folks and now they're grown folks.
Yeah.
What's it like for you to have been a part of somebody's life for so long? Not that I'm making you sound like an old person, but
I'm 29.
Okay.
I'll say the one young man, and that was I think it was earlier this year. I ran into him, and mind you, I primarily worked with kindergarten to 5th grade. Most of the time I was working for the board. But, and I knew this young man from kindergarten, him and his sister. When I ran into him, he was working at Home Depot. He looked at me and I looked at him. I called him by name. He says, Mrs. Thomas. I was like, how you doing, honey? I asked him how old he was because I hadn't seen him in years, and I couldn't count the years. Like I said, I've had so many kids. He told me he was 25. And now, mind you, I have children that are older than that, but I can remember him like it was yesterday. Him and his sister, who started after he did. One child just reached out to me. She just turned 21. But the little boy says to me, the young man says to me, I remember you letting me play Mufasa in the play. And he's 25. And that's what he came up with out of his mouth.
How was he as Mufasa?
He was as cute as a button. And then the young lady who messaged me, she turned 21. I can remember when her mother was carrying her in her body. And her sister, her parents reached out to me 3 years ago when the oldest sister graduated from high school, from Heights. And I hadn't seen the girls since elementary school. And but they wanted me to be there to surprise her for her prom date night. So I went and sat with the family and took prom pictures of my baby. And then the year after that, I was invited to come during COVID for two of them's graduation party where you ride by in your car and give them a gift. Mm-hmm. I didn't do that. I cheated. I got out of my car.
Yeah.
So they're children, my young people. I run into them all the time. Dave's, 2 or 3 of them, and they know me. Like I said, she was the last one was telling me about her brothers, the twins, and how they were doing. Because I asked, and she's in her 3rd year of college. I ran into another one in South Euclid on Saturday at the festival, and I think. I've known her since kindergarten, and I told her, give your mom a hug for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that I hear from a few of my colleagues who are in education. A very dear friend of mine is Mwatabu Okanta, Kent State University.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually a grad assistant when I was a student there back in, I don't want to say how long ago, but
such a short time.
I've heard so many stories from him, and I've actually seen former students who see him after not having seen him for so long, and it's like, oh, Baba Okanta. It's always a beautiful moment. I'm glad to be able to relive those memories with you. When we come back, we're going to talk about your artist career and get into what you are producing and creating as an artist. So we'll pick that up when we come back. You're listening to Open Door on 95.9 FM WOVU. I'm Vince Robinson. My guest is Mary Kay Thomas, artist and educator par excellence. We'll be right back on 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station. Back in a minute.
Are you or someone you know in need of help? Here's a resource you can turn to.
The Thea Bowman Center has been serving the community for over 50 years and provides services to help support Mount Pleasant and surrounding communities of all ages. Some of these programs include adult education like GED, computer classes, food pantry, senior outreach, youth after school, and summer programs, and much more. Are you a Cleveland resident in need of a GED preparation, a food pantry, youth or senior programs? Then call the Thea Bowman Center at 216-491-0669 or visit TheaBowmanCenter.org. Call the Thea Bowman Center at 216-491-0669 or visit TheaBowmanCenter.org to register today.
This message is brought to you by the Thea Bowman Center and WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
Back on Open Door with Vince Robinson and my guest, artist and educator Mary Kay Thomas. We've been down memory lane, and she's been running into former students and seeing how much they've grown. They grown people now.
Yes.
You know, they start from so small, but then they grow up like weeds, and the next thing you know it, they're grown people. So you spent a lot of time in the classroom, and you mentioned it was younger students up to like 5th grade or so.
Yes.
But we've also talked about you being an art therapist and connecting intergenerationally. That's a mouthful. But you're also an artist, and you have artwork that is displayed in different places. You've shared with me that there are future plans for your work to appear in other places, and there's a very strong possibility that one of my pieces of art may become an inspiration for you to do your own work. So let's talk about Mary Kay, the artist. What medium or media do you work in?
I work in a host of mediums. I studied at Karamu as a kid. I studied ceramics, clay. But I also like painting, drawing, and dance. I also studied dance as a kid, too. So I sculpt, I paint, and right now I have two exhibits. One is called Less is More at the 78th Street Studios, and Summer Views, there you go, at the Bay Arts. And that show, both those shows are due to come to a close, I think, close to the end of the month. I'm currently working on a couple muraling projects for the Coit Road Market, which I did the designs and met with the Architectural Board for East Cleveland. And they liked my design so well, they asked me to put an extra mural on the market face. I just had a mural installed in the Coit Road Learning Garden last week. It just went up. That talks about our young people and their gardening, which we run classes all summer, every Wednesday. Bring the kids and come out and learn about gardening and have a gardening space of your own, even over at the Coit Road Market, 150 and Coit Road or Woolworth, whichever you want to. But East Cleveland, I launched a project last year called the You and I of Euclid Avenue, a gateway to East Cleveland. I was devastated when I moved in 2 years ago because I'd never seen anything like it. East Cleveland, Euclid. And they had that lovely school sitting up there like it was a crown and glory, but every place around it cried out demilitarized zone, and I just couldn't imagine what it would be like as a child having to walk to school and be looking that and then be expected to produce something creative after walking to school. So I set upon an idea. I can't do anything but bring art. That's what I could use as a catalyst to help change things in the community. I just mentioned it to someone, and they took my idea and said, Mary, you need to do that. So here I am. This year I was granted, I got a $5,000 grant from Spaces. I was awarded that. I also have an IOB, which did very well. And I'm waiting now to hear back from the Fowler Family Foundation they asked me to write a grant for them as well, and I wrote a grant and submitted that. So I'm working with a local fabricator, local to East Cleveland. I wanted to try to make sure that I keep the commerce in the city, and also reached out to West Camp, who works, they do big-time printing here in our city for people like the Cleveland Browns, to help me to achieve that structural art project. My muraling project for Euclid Avenue is I'm not going to paint it. It's not going to be on a building because the site that the mayor asked me to put the mural on has no building. So that meant structural art. So I've created that structural art design and now forwarding it to both entities and connecting the fabricator and the printer together so that they can do the work that needs to be done. I've already spoken with both entities, and it shouldn't take but a couple of weeks for them to produce the artwork. And also, I'm going to have a community engagement. I'm putting together a raffle for the community, and I'm going to raffle off calves items, a little basket of calves items that the calves sent to me. So, and I'm going to add an art, some canvases and art supplies, paints. And also, because I'm on the board of directors for Food Strong, and I'm the artist for the Coit Road Market, I've asked vendors to also add to that basket a card from a few of the vendors to help fatten that up and raffle that off and use the proceeds to go back into the You and I project. I would really like to do a generational project because there are a lot of families in East Cleveland that the grandparents, the parents, and the children they all still live there. And that type of history needs to be told and shared in this place-keeping and place-making project. It's about the history of East Cleveland, but it's also about the wonderful, rich history of the residents. And gentrification is something that we know usually gets a black eye. But if you partner with with the rejuvenation process, you won't be forgotten. There's no way you can be a part of it. Don't stand by and say, I don't want it. Throw your hat in the ring, too. So that's what I'm doing, is making sure that our hat is in the ring, too.
Yeah, I really appreciate what you said about placemaking and placekeeping, because what we do generationally sometimes is we abandon the things that our forebearers did. You know, when the family decides that we're going to sell that house that's been in the family for so long, you know, and you take a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there, and then you put it in your pocket, spend it, whatever, you've just thrown away what they worked for so hard.
Your own personal history.
Own history, but also the whole idea of having something tangible, that real estate, that land. At the very least, if you have a big enough backyard, you could grow some vegetables.
Yes.
When you sell the house and you move into that apartment or that condo, you lose your ability to provide for yourself in a very small way. I mean, grow corn, grow tomatoes,
Yes.
whatever you grow, whatever you can. And these are things that our grandparents did. I can remember my grandparents living in Massillon, Ohio, in the backyard right next to the garage. My grandmother was growing greens and tomatoes
Yes.
and all kinds of things. These are things that we can do, but because we don't have financial literacy as part of our educational process, we walk away from the very things that could empower us. So
Yes.
once again, kudos to you for bringing in another educational element. I'm just rewinding a few moments ago when you talked about teaching young people gardening.
Oh, yes, yes. And about the earth and about dirt. Oh, I love to compost. Oh, my goodness. That's one of my favorite. Making your own dirt. All of the scraps that we have in our home, the potato peelings, the head off your pineapple, apple cores, and the skin off your oranges. Pitch that stuff in an old garbage can with some Excelsior and a little manure, and I used it for fun because I poked holes in the garbage can. I didn't buy a regular composter. I just used a great big garbage can that I had and rolled it back and forth and made the best dirt ever. It was so black, so rich. And you never have to have weed killer.
Okay, I want to make a deal with you, because I have a compost bin in my backyard that
wow.
I've had for 3 years.
And you've never used it.
And I've never used it. Now, here's the sad part. I'm vegan. So most of what I eat, I'm eating fruits, I'm eating vegetables, and I'm using the garbage disposal because, the fruit flies show up, and it's a losing battle.
It is.
So I just say, let me just get rid of this. But what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to use that smaller bin, put the things in the smaller bin,
Yes.
collect them in there, and then take them outside, put them in the compost bin. And then I'm going to invite Mary Kay Thomas to my house, get some of this good compost. But in exchange, I need to get some of them vegetables you're growing, all right?
Well, you know something, the East Cleveland, the E.C. Groves garden has been around about 30 years, but the East Cleveland garden is the second oldest garden in the nation. So, you can rent a spot for $10 and grow what you want all summer, or either pay Miss Gladys $15 and go over and pick whatever you want, whenever you want. All summer long, fresh tomatoes, fresh garlic, chives.
All right. Okay. Before you leave today, I got to get Miss Gladys's telephone number because I got $15 and I like fresh produce, especially locally produced produce, because that's the best produce you can absolutely get.
It is.
And if it happened to be organic, I could be even more ecstatic.
Oh, it is.
All right.
We don't play with no pesticides.
Case closed is done. I'm getting with Gladys. I'm going to get with you all on the other side of this break. You're listening to Open Door right here on 95.9 FM WOVU. I'm going to have to edit that.
Okay.
You're listening to 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station. This is Vince Robinson, Open Door, with Mary Kay Thomas, artist and educator, and we'll be right back after this. What can you do in the battle against COVID-19? Your first task, wear a mask, protect yourself and others. Armor up, armor up. Give those hands a 20-second shower with soap and water. Armor up, armor up. Give others space 6 feet just in case. Armor up, armor up. Get good nutrition, ingest for digestion. Armor up, armor up. Vitamin C, D3, and more. Armor up, armor up. Elderberries, zinc, and echinacea from the store. Armor up, armor up. Get some fresh air. Go climb some stairs. Armor up, armor up. Let go of stress. Make sure you rest. Armor up, armor up. Your breath is the key to life. Strengthen your immune system, follow the guidelines, and win the battle against COVID-19. Armor up, armor up. We're back on Open Door with Vince Robinson and my guest, Mary Kay Thomas. Again, cool, calm, and collected. I'm so proud of you. You've made it through 3 segments, and we're rounding third and headed home. We just had this fascinating conversation about the possibilities of getting some fresh organic produce and giving somebody $15 and getting whatever I want to get. I won't walk out with the whole garden, but, you know, I mean, when you pay $1.50 for an avocado and $5 for a pineapple, and, you know, you could spend $1 or $2 for one single orange, you know, it's really getting crazy out there. I remember the days when you could get 10 ears of corn for $1. You could get 20 ears of corn for $1. Now there's a corn shortage, so you're paying way more for that. And then on top of that, the corn that you're buying, in most cases, is genetically modified corn.
Yeah, it is. But my growers. Have you ever heard of a ground cherry?
No.
Ground cherry. A ground cherry.
Okay.
And I thought that I had seen all the exotic fruit that comes in because I've always shopped at the West Side Market. I've been shopping there 40 years, and I still do. Before that, it was the Central Market, before they tore it down downtown. I'm dating myself. But anyway, I love fresh. And then we always had a garden growing up. So I learned canning, how to make jelly, all of that. I'm pretty much a home girl in that respect. But their fruit, their vegetables, and their ability over there to turn out, it's just wonderful. And then the added bonus is that we're sharing that with our young people. And we invite people from all over the city to come and join us to play in dirt. With Food Strong. Yes.
Earlier in our conversation, you talked about the importance of young and old connecting, and I can see that definitely evidenced in your work, but I just want to revisit that for a minute, just recalling our conversation and just sharing with you that sometimes I get invited to situations just because the young folks want to have an elder present. How encouraged are you right now in this time in which it seems as though young folk are so at odds with the elders in most cases? How encouraged are you that perhaps this paradigm may be shifting?
I have so many young people that call me mama, and not just my own children. I'm working with a young man right now, and he is a young farmer. He has grown his business for about 7-8 years, and COVID was pretty hard on him. He is a meat vendor. Like I said, he has his own farm, and that's what he does, his meats. I told him earlier this year that I saw that he was going to get a restaurant, and within a week, somebody had reached out to him and was offering him a place. He now has a small spot in a restaurant. He's establishing himself as a restaurateur. I saw that he needed me. In a few different ways. So I reached out to somebody I know that wants to write grants, wants to learn how to research and write grants. And that young man needs a grant. So I put that other young man who wants to do volunteer work and help other people. I put those two gentlemen that I haven't met yet, but he's already found a grant for him to help him. So this evening, when I leave here, or after my dinner appointment, I'll make a stop and do that. And then I know that a young musician that I'll be introducing him to you, because I saw that, and he's eager to meet with you. That's what I do. I'm coming together with young artisans all over. A young man, I'm sharing a space right now with a young artist at Bay Arts. I don't want to say his name. Is it okay if I say his name?
Sure.
Davon Bradley. And our show opened on the same night, August the 13th. He is a young up-and-coming graduate from the CIA. I'm doing currently something with, we're putting together a little artist engagement with Aaron Williams and Lee Brooklyn. I'm busy. Mm-hmm. And those are young people. Those are people in half my age.
Yeah, when you talk about Aaron, Aaron was actually on a show that I did. I do a television version of Open Door at Community Focus in Macedonia, and I had him as a guest on the show prior to his solo exhibition, which is now at MoCA, which is just absolutely amazing.
Oh, God.
And the thing that impresses me so much about Aaron and some of his colleagues like Antoine Washington is their selflessness.
Yes.
You know, the whole idea that they embrace the idea of collaboration. It's not crabs in a barrel. It's let's work together to move art forward, because they, as you, understand the healing aspect of it and the way that it unifies us cross generations.
Yes, and they love me like a mom. Immediately, I love them too, and it's been. I went to his opening, and I've actually worked at the MoCA. I worked there for 2 years as a contractor, and the spirit in that place was not the best, but the night that show opened and that young man, I had to stand back before I even could. I entered the room, and the energy was so high from the young people. I looked across the room, Vince, and they were a room full of children, all artisans, all enjoying it. And it was overwhelming. It was just, it took my breath away to see it. I was so elated to see our children, our future, in that grandiose way at the MoCA.
I was there that night as well. That was the same night that we opened the AR exhibition at the Sculpture Center.
Yes, I went after that.
And so I broke my band equipment down, and it was kind of late when I got there. But when I got there, I saw Mocha. I heard the music. I saw the artwork. I saw the people, and I'm like, yeah, this is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Let's not just do this tonight. Let's keep this going. Let's keep this momentum going. And this is against the backdrop of my awareness of the whole situation with LaTanya Autry, who was the first black curator in the 54-year history of MoCA. Why has it taken it so long for this to happen?
Yeah.
And this is something that happened as a direct result of the discomfort that she went through in this place that you described as, not your words, my words, toxic. Because there was a toxic environment there, and it is something that needs to be worked on. Because you don't solve problems in one day.
No.
So let's give credit where credit is due, but let's also say that we have to continue to move forward in the spirit of equity, inclusion, and diversity that we hear so much these days. We hear those words over and over and over again, but as an art advocate and as an art activist, I have to say, let's not just get comfortable with what has happened. Let's focus on what we can do to continue to move this momentum in the direction that it should go.
Right, absolutely right. But it was a beautiful night, wasn't it? The energy, the power that was in that place.
Yes.
It was like watching a fireworks display over the top of that shiny bullet. And I talk about that site quite a bit because it is the site of the Jazz Temple, which is a big part of our Cleveland history that is long forgotten and unspoken about. And they redid that district so that the history could be forgotten. That jazz club, the Jazz Temple, was a black jazz club and coffee house that was located on the corner there.
Yeah, and that really gets to the heart of what gentrification is all about.
Yeah.
So we got the Cozad Bates house that's, I believe, still standing. But then you had something like that erased. You had things like Leo's Casino erased. And then let's not forget Wolf's Den. I mean, Wolf's Den was down on Cedar.
Yes.
COVID killed Wolf's Den. But then you had so many of our great artists like Eddie Backus Sr., and Perry Williams and many of the others that were there on a weekly basis, keeping that music alive. So we have to remind folks of that history. We cannot let it die.
No, the jazz, and I paint often. A lot of my paintings are about the history of jazz. Traveling jazz, the traveling jazz artists of the 50s, the 40s, and 50s. We mustn't forget them as well, and all of the work that they put in for our history that help us to stand strong right now, even though sometimes we don't realize it.
Okay. So we're just about out of time, but I just wanted to give you an opportunity to shout out what Mary Kay is doing right now, what's next on the horizon, and if folks need to reach out to you, how do they get to you?
You can reach out to me on Facebook, Mary Kay. That's middle initial K, not K-A-Y. The K-A-Y is the artist's name. Thomas. And Rhythmic Artistry is my website. And if you would like to donate to the U&I of Euclid Avenue, a gateway to East Cleveland, you can look that site up as well on Facebook and check out my IOB.
Okay. So it's Mary, middle initial K, and the last name is Thomas. You can reach out to her in all those various ways and tune in. You can go to YouTube and listen to this broadcast, and very soon you'll be able to actually see the broadcast because we are recording these now, so you'll have a visual to go along with the oral. Mary, it's been an extreme honor to have this conversation with you. We didn't get to all the stories, We barely scratched the surface, but hopefully we said something that resonates with someone that will induce and create and foster a spirit of healing within them.
Thank you, Vince. It's been wonderful. You know what? I forgot my phone number.
Give it.
216-322-2047.
Okay. Write it down. Use it. Get some art up when you need to. You've been listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOVU. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your best day. Peace.